Woody Allen is the exact antithesis of Michael Bay. I think there is an eagerness in the media to do Woody Allen bashing, and I believe this is mainly subjective, and perhaps he's brought this upon himself by making his persona so prevalent in his work, even when it's other actors playing his part. I think too many people think they don't like his films because they don't like the Woody Allen that they read about in the Daily Mail. But he has a filmography which is unparalleled and has probably earned the opportunity in his twilight years to chuck in a passable film for every great film. Well, we'll find out what Blue Jasmine is.
The weird thing about that email is it's like a preemptive defence, imagining that there's going to be an attack. And of course, actually, what's happened in the case of Blue Jasmine, I mean, Midnight in Paris, I think, in terms of its worldwide box office, was the most money that a Woody Allen film has taken worldwide. And it, as you say, only a couple of years ago. In the case of this, certainly a week or so ago, it was his biggest US opening, and it's received nothing but rave reviews, and everybody's saying how brilliant it is. So believe me, you don't need to sort of preemptively defend. Woody Allen is doing very, very well. I know what you mean about return to form, because it's like, if you only made Midnight in Paris a couple of years ago, what are you returning from? The interesting thing about Woody Allen is this. His career moves fast enough that things like Scoop and Cassandra's Dream, which aren't that long ago, I mean 2007, that kind of period, just seem like they're way, way back, because they're 7-8 films away, because he's making a film a year, and he's been on that treadmill, really since the beginning of the 90s. And, occasionally I've argued, well, I wish he would slow down and make better films, but less of them. But actually, at the moment, he's on a very, very strong run. Certainly in terms of his popularity, it is unparalleled in terms of box office, and the reviews are strikingly great. Now, you had Cate Blanchett was your guest on the show last week because you did the interview with her. She was absolutely terrific and stayed the course, obviously.
Yeah, she was great, and I don't think she's been on the show before, but I was trying
to think that.
She was a perfect guest.
She was great. And essentially, so the story is her character, Jasmine, is a New York socialite who is effectively, her life starts to fall apart when her husband is imprisoned for what's effectively called, it's a Ponzi scheme is what they call it. He's been involved in financial fiddling, and he goes to prison, and worse. She washes up at the beginning of the film in San Francisco, where she's going to have to come and stay with her adoptive sister, played by Sally Hawkins, who is several rungs down the social ladder from her. She comes and brings with her havoc, which is essentially all encompassed in her personality, which is that her personality is fractured, her personality is extremely neurotic, she is drinking. As you said at the beginning, I think your first question to Cate Blanchett was, having seen the movie, you never want to drink again.
Oh, no, absolutely, because she's taking pills and booze all
pills
the way
and
through.
booze, but not in a good way. And throughout the film, what we hear is this almost compulsive, I mean, she appears to be having dialogues with people, but quite often it falls just into monologues. It is the voice of somebody talking to themselves and unraveling whilst they do it. Here's a clip.
I always wanted to do something with my life. I had energy. I didn't just shop and lunch and go to matinees. I ran charities for poor people. Raised money for museums and schools. With wealth comes responsibilities. I wasn't just some mindless consumer like so many of my so-called friends. Though I won't say I dislike buying pretty clothes. Tip big, boys. Tip big because you get good service, and they count on tips. Someday, when you come into great wealth, you must remember to be generous.
Mom said you used to be okay, but you got crazy.
Yeah, and then you talked to yourself.
And there is an awful lot of that. You can't. At the very beginning of the film, she is seen at an airport arrivals terminal, and she's talking to somebody who's with her, and she's basically in this kind of confessional mode, talking very, very personally about her life. And it's only a couple of minutes in that you realise that she's not really talking to the person that she's with. She's just talking, and throughout the film she does that, and her voice rings throughout the film, as indeed does her presence. I mean, Jasmine is a really, really big character. She absolutely fills every room, every frame, and her presence is felt by everybody in the movie. Now, you talked to Cate Blanchett about the influence of Tennessee Williams' Streetcar Named Desire, because Blanchett had played Blanche Dubois in a stage production by Liv Ullmann, which was very, very sort of very acclaimed. She said that she thought when she got the role originally that was because Woody Allen knew that she'd done that on stage, and she was surprised to find out afterwards that he only became aware of it later, and he sort of seems to have downplayed that. But clearly Streetcar is in the back of all this, and not that's a bad thing at all. I mean, it's, but there is this idea of this character who has fallen from social grace and imposing upon a close relative, and then criticising that relative's lifestyle, telling her that she needs to expect more from the men that she's with, from the life that she's leading. She has these kind of social climbing pretensions, but in her eyes there is this desperation, there is this delusional sense, there is this sense of somebody who is living completely outside of their existence and is also totally unable to deal with the realities of the world, with the realities of work, with the realities of being somebody who no longer is outside of the bubble of wealth or of a protective environment. As always with Woody Allen, it's however great the central performance is, and it is great, and we said this before, I think you can mark your scorecards right now. Best Actress nominations, there we go. That's the opening gamble, and I think you're going to have to work pretty hard to top that. Now, I don't know what's coming between now and the end of December, but I think, at the moment, she's the front runner for Best Actress, and it is, because it's a towering performance. It is brilliant. It is quite hard to be in the company of her. I mean, she's hard company. She's abrasive. I mean, in terms of the tone of the movie, people always joke about Woody Allen, the early funny ones. It's a joke that he made himself in Stardust Memories. This isn't a return to the early funny ones. It owes more to the kind of the later serious ones like Crimes and Misdemeanors and Husbands and Wives and obviously Interiors. It has that really abrasive edge, which Allen does do. I mean, when he plays, there are jokes in there, there is humour in there, but when there is, it's scathing asides, it's sort of biting satire, it's humour with a smile which is cracked and looks like it might at any point turn to tears. The supporting cast are absolutely great. Sally Hawkins is brilliant. In a way, she's the audience's entry point. She's the person who you like the most. She's the person who is the most warm-hearted and sympathetic. She's the person who allows us a way into this character because obviously, her relationship with her sister is what makes you want to spend time with Jasmine, because actually on her own Jasmine is really, really hard work. And I think Blanchett, it's like a marathon. It's like watching somebody performing some incredible athletic feat. The performance is exhausting, and it's exhausting to watch. Also in those other roles, Alec Baldwin yet again proves himself to be the absolute master of the seductive slime ball. It's brilliant that he's kind of made this his forte, playing characters who are sort of untrustworthy. He does it in a lot of movies, but he does it really, really well. Somebody who's kind of sleek and slimy all at the same time, and he embodies that role brilliantly. I think we get, very good performances from, for example, from Bobby Cannavale, who's this sort of, second-hand, second fiddle Stanley Kowalski figure. The real surprise, Andrew Dice Clay. Is really good. And considering how much I've detested Andrew Dice Clay in the past. Just
fill in younger listeners with Andrew Dice Clay.
Well, he's a comedian who was known for being, I think what they refer to it as is politically incorrect. I think he was the first, I may be wrong, I think he was the first, if not one of the first comedians to sell out Madison Square Gardens for, was it 3 nights in a row? That was a big deal. He was absolutely huge. And he was in films like Ford Fairlane, and he was just an utterly obnoxious presence. And in this, he plays somebody who was kind of a big man laid low. And I have to say, he does it rather well and does it with pathos. And I never thought I'd say that. Andrew Dice Clay is well cast. But the supporting cast are brilliant. I think Sally Hawkins may well get herself a Best Supporting Actress nomination, and she deserves it. But in the end, the film is like watching a masterclass in the same way that Blanche absolutely dominates Streetcar. This Blue Jasmine is the centre of the film,